42 cars split among 3 classes took the green flag yesterday to kick off the 2022 Pirelli GT4 America season. RS1 nailed that pit strategy to propel Stephen McAleer and newcomer Eric Filgaris to the silver and overall victory, while B Sport Racing's Kenton Cook and Brian Putt took Pro-Am honors in dramatic fashion. The AM class battle also came down to the wire, with Charlie Postins and James Clay of Bimmer World narrowly hanging on for a season opening victory. That was yesterday. What's in store today? We're about to find out. Hello everyone, and a very happy Easter to you. My name is Ryan Marine, with Calvin Fish joining me in the broadcast booth. Amanda Busick is down in the pits. Cars already out on their formation laps, Calvin. What a great race yesterday. After some early issues, it settled into a classic.
It did. It was a wild one. We had a number of yellows early in the going, but the second half of the race, after the mandatory pit stop window, which was delayed slightly because of the cautions, boy, we saw a barn burner, and we're seeing a lot of showcasing of talent here this weekend with new teams, new drivers, new combinations. Exciting start to the 2022 season.
And to add to the topsy-turvy nature of the championship, it's the pros that started the Pro-Am lineups here today in day 2. Pro-Am cars make up the bulk of this field, and it's a totally jumbled up grid from what we saw a day ago.
It is, and what you're going to see here, there's that pit stop window 25, 35 minutes in. Yesterday, you're trying to get the AM out, maximize your speed of your pro, getting in the car early. Today is the reverse psychology. Extend that run for the pro deep into that 35-minute window, get them out, try and get the track position, try and get the buffer, try and get the cushion in time, and then let the AM try and hang on to that win.
Just look at some of these names in these cars, and you'd be hard-pressed to find better names, better resumes in some GT3 championships around the globe. The amount of success represented in this field is remarkable.
It really is, and you can get deep into the top 10, outside the top 10, and seeing some very recognizable names who have won championships, many races during their career, really fighting hard for just to get in the points even.
A driver like Rafa Matos, for instance, starting as far back as 27th. This is a former IndyCar Rookie of the Year. Just a remarkable field of drivers, plenty of storylines throughout these 42 cars. Getting a little bit further deep into the field, looking at the starting grid. Keep an eye out for your favorite team or driver. Great variety in the mix as well, with different manufacturers represented here on the Pirelli GT4 America grid. An update, though, pre-race from the pit lane now with our own Amanda Busick.
Well, Ryan, you were talking about the race being in, yesterday's race being in the rear view. Well, one of the things that was in a rear view yesterday was the Conquest Racing Mercedes in the rear view of Stephen McAleer's Porsche, and that battle is at the front of this grid here today as well. One of those drivers is the man standing next to me, and when you look at yesterday, you got to kick off this stint in the Mercedes. You'll take it home today. What have you learned this weekend that's helping you?
It's definitely a large learning weekend, being my first weekend here in the SRO. I'm really excited to get to do the opposite end of the race. Starting on new tires was definitely a beneficial thing, allowed me to kind of feel out the car a bit, but I think just feeling the racecraft and pushing home is going to be a good experience, and taking a bit of that from yesterday as well.
John Farrow told us yesterday that you won this seat in a shootout in December in NOLA. When you found out the news, what was your reaction?
I was ecstatic. Obviously, being from Canada, it's always my dream to come down here and expand my racing into the North America scene, and it's a dream come true, absolutely. And I only have him and Danny and Eric to thank, and obviously this team. They're fantastic, and it's been quite the experience so far.
Good luck today, Gavin.
Thank you so much.
Gavin Sanders, the young man from Mount Albert in Ontario. He and Mackay Stevens sharing the Mercedes on the front row you see right there. They came up just a little bit short yesterday, but they'll have a great starting spot alongside the overall winners from yesterday, RS1, Stephen McAleer and Eric Filgaris.
Yeah, I saw Stephen this morning. He's grabbing a coffee in the hotel. I said, congrats, was the story today. He said, well, pole position, I need to get the jump and just try and control it and break away a little bit. But that Mercedes, Mackay Stevens, was really strong yesterday. Slightly faster car, but let's see what happens here. So 1-2 from yesterday, line up the front of the field here today.
Just look at this field of cars coming through turn 10. When you think you've seen the end of it, more show up. That is how big this field is in 2022. A great way to start a brand new season. Race 1, it was a classic. What does race 2 have in store? We'll find out in just a few moments. The Scotsman, Stephen McAleer, starting on pole position. He's got Mackay Stevens, the native of Chicago, Illinois, starting alongside. Top two in the race yesterday. They start 1-2 today. Tom Hansing displays the green, and we are racing. Race 2 at Sonoma is underway.
Stephen Mackler, true to his word there, scampers off right there at the start. Mackay Stevens under enormous pressure. This Povaleto to the inside. Gets inside Kenton Cook. Can he hang on?
Aaron Povaleto, that team not had much success or luck, really, through 3 races so far this weekend. This is their chance to try and get a result. He shares that car with Ross West.
Kenton Cook was able to rebound there a little bit, get back into that 3rd position. Is Jason Hart on the attack early aboard that Nola Sport number 47 Porsche.
He was the man on the move at the tail end of the race yesterday. Keep a close eye on Jason Hart, the reigning Pro-Am champion. New co-driver, though, in 2022. The fight is fierce deep in the pack.
Look how deep this field is as they now funnel down into the carousel turn. Mackler up front. Mackay Stevens got his head looking at that rear view camera, trying to figure out which way Kenton Cook is going to go.
Oh, Justin Piscatell got pushed just that little bit wide. I think he's working on Lars Kern in the Porsche from the Absolute Racing team, coming over and making its series debut yesterday.
Kern, so much experience, one of the Porsche factory drivers, trying to settle in here. Didn't have a great day yesterday, got that penalty, but they look quick.
3 cars at the front of the field coming through the chicane for the first time. Stephen McAleer leading Mackay Stevens. Right behind Kenton Cook, looking strong. That was your winner yesterday in Pro-Am, the Beastport Racing Aston.
James Safronis there making an early move there inside of Guy Cosmo.
Now Safron is forced to go on the defensive in the 032 car. It says Kyle Washington is driving, but I think it should be Safron is getting the start here today.
A few mix-ups with the driver IDs, we believe, as James starting the race here today. We're trying to get clarification on that.
This is the battle, though, for the 4th spot. Aaron Povaleto, partner in this team with Ross West, who will drive in the second half of this race, and he's got the veteran, the reigning champ, Jason Hart, one of the quickest men in a Porsche Cayman on the continent, breathing down his neck.
He can really roll some speed there through turn 3, putting the pressure on Povaleto. Boys, there's some talent at the front of this field here today.
Jason Hart last year, en route to that championship, picked up no less than 9 wins, 11 podiums across the season last year. They dominated the championship, he and Matt Travis. Matt has moved on, so stepping in, Scott Noble, his first season racing at the Pro-Am level, and they were right there in the mix yesterday.
We're going to miss Matt Travis's post-race comments. Oh, it was a lot of fun, but what a battle we're seeing up there. You can throw a blank over these top 5.
If anyone's looking vulnerable amongst them, it's probably Stevens right now, slotted into the 2nd spot, that Conquest Racing Mercedes. Yes, it is the same Conquest if you're a longtime IndyCar, Champ Car fan. Eric Bachelard has been active in sports car racing for the last decade or so. And Mackay Stevens, the native of Chicago, holding down 2nd position. But he's got Kenton Cook right there behind him. The interesting dynamic there, Calvin, is that's not a class position between those two. That is the leader in Pro-Am running right behind the 2nd place car in silver.
That's one of the interesting dynamics amongst this multi-class form of GT4 racing. Is you've got to really factor that in. How hard do you want to battle someone when they're not in the same class?
Especially on the silver side, knowing here today in race 2 of the weekend, 2nd half of the race, all these pros that are mixing it up with you, they're going to be turning it over to their less experienced co-drivers, and suddenly that doesn't become as big of an issue.
Yeah, and you can actually factor that in. If you feel that your AM partner is maybe a lot stronger than a fellow AM driver, just say, keep it close. I know when my partner gets in the car, he's going to have a lot more speed, so sometimes you're not going to put it all on the line, recognizing the second half of the race could be even stronger for you.
And this fight was fierce right now. Certainly the Nova Sport Porsche, Jason Hart and Matt Travis last year, that was part of their thought process. Matt was as quick as any of the AM portions of the AM Pro-Am pairings, but it's a different dynamic now. Scott Noble not nearly the experience level of Matt Travis, so a bit more pressure perhaps on Jason Hart this year than we've seen in the past. Meanwhile, Stevens just doing enough to keep Kenton Cook at bay.
And again, Kenton's in the same situation. He leads Pro-Am right now. How much does he want this track position from Mackay Stevens? Kenton and Brian Platt had that brilliant victory yesterday. Ian James grabbed the lead late, cut down a tyre. We believe that's what kind of stymied him in the last couple of laps and gave the victory back to Kenton. Kenton down to the inside. Mackay gives him just enough room. There's a touch there. Got to be careful when you're turning the wheels and those sidewalls outside the bodywork. Very easy to cut a tyre.
Kenton Cook does make it work, however. A little bit of contact, but they continue to race on. Two up-and-coming young Americans, Mackay Stevens and Kenton Cook.
Jason Hart looks threatening there. You can see that Porsche came to McAleer, stretching the lead up front. Here's a replay of that move down into turn 9. Mackay Stevens just gives him enough room. You can see the understeer there as Kenton had to turn the car a little bit more aggressively than he normally would. Went straight on a little bit. Just touches him, but makes it through.
Kenton's got to be thinking, what do I got to do to not have some contact in one of these races? He and Ian James were bouncing off of each other yesterday. Thomas Merrill was off to a huge start. He was up 20-something positions in the first couple of laps, but his day is done, and this is why. Wow, that looked like a parts failure.
Yeah, he's got a broken front suspension there, and just plows straight on. Unfortunately, takes the 32 car with him.
Cole Corallo nowhere to go in that Snow Brothers Racing Capstone Motorsports entry.
I have to feel there's going to be a yellow for this. These guys race a little bit further while they ascertain the situation with that stranded car from the race control situation.
Kai Stevens starting to slip back somewhat. Now it's Aaron Povaleto taking his turn. The Canadian who was an up-and-comer on the open wheel scene at one time and has found a new niche for himself, doing a lot of driver coaching. He and Ross West have been working together for a long, long time, and they go in as partners on this team. Yellow is out, and Cole Corallo has made his way to the pit lane. We saw the contact earlier, and you have to wonder if that has not had some ill effect. But the pace has slowed. Our first full course yellow of the afternoon for Pirelli GT4 America, and it wipes out a nearly 2-second lead that Stephen McAleer had built up.
Yeah, he knows that he's really got to dig deep here, and be curious to see what strategy they employ, because Eric Filgueras is a really strong co-driver for McAleer. Doesn't have the experience in this form of competition like Stephen does, but has good pace. So I think they've got some options with strategy in terms of when we do get to that pit stop window and when they elect to make their pit stop for the day.
Let's talk pit window and pit strategy, Calvin. What do these teams need to keep in mind?
Well, it's the pit window happens 25 minutes into this race. You got to have at least the car on pit lane by the 35-in mark. Don't have to complete with the service. No tire changes like we see in GT World Challenge America, but there's a mandatory driver change. There's plenty of time on the board. You've essentially got 92 seconds to come down pit lane, be on pit lane, and do the driver change. You are allowed to do some tire pressure adjustments. And with a Pro-Am driver pairing with the stronger driver starting this race, you expect to go deep into that window to maximize their speed for as long as possible. But again, you got to factor in, where is the traffic? If I pit now, where do I come out? We saw that yesterday in terms of that change of position for the win, with the winners making that call a little bit earlier versus the Conquest Racing team staying out. And when they did stay out, they suddenly got balked with cars coming out of pit lane, having made their pit stop, and that cost them dearly.
You're right. RS1 played that beautifully yesterday. We take a look at a couple of damaged race cars. Ugh, that's so frustrating. Thomas Merrill had a great start going. He shares that car with Alain Stad, and then nowhere for poor Cole Corallo to go. And he saw the damage to the right front, and also something punctured the radiator, it would appear, with some fluid dripping out of that machine as well.
Yeah, either a rad or an oil cooler. Certainly some fluid was leaking there, so their day will be done, unfortunately.
We had high hopes. New team for Cole this year, joining Chris Wilson, and they've been having some fun with the age discrepancy between them, calling each other grandpa and great-grandpa now, and Crazy Cole, lots of fun nicknames getting thrown around. But unfortunately, fewer laughs today in that Capstone Racing pit lane. A look here, though, at the RS1 Porsche. Stephen McAleer piloted this thing to victory just one day ago, using that strategy that you talked about, and that team was really on top of it. Meanwhile, Kenton Cook won in Pro-Am yesterday, with Brian Putt in a race that was absolutely wild. He and Ian James were banging doors down in turn 7 a couple of times. That ultimately led, we believe, to Ian cutting down a tire and put Kitten back in front, but he still had to hold off Jason Hart.
He did. It was a wonderful battle there for the win. And a lot was learned. So all of these teams, the engineers have been tuning on these race cars, trying to adjust them a little bit more to the track conditions we're seeing here this morning. Sofronis, we have confirmation, is behind the wheel of the 032 machine from GMG. So this is an AM pairing, he and Carl Washington. Washington multitasking this weekend, running in 3 different classes, 3 different championships.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Shades of what we saw from, it was Jason Bell a few years ago, where he was running absolutely anything he could. Speaking of Kyle Washington, busy man this weekend, and busier still because he's about to do an interview.
Well, we were just talking about that it is his 3rd race of the day, and I think there's an energy drink in your hand. You're getting pumped up for this race. How do you prepare yourself for such a long day in competition?
Oh, you know, I like to train for different sports, and now I got into racing. This is, you know, the start of the year 3, and so I'm doing multiple series where I can run more than 1 cars, and just gives me more incentive to train. And you know, the team's already here, so I just give them more to do.
You were just saying, of course, in our 2nd race, we're going to contend for the win here. You and James, talk about the relationship between you two.
Oh, with James, become one of my best friends. He's my most expensive friend as well. He owns the team, so he's quickly taken on that role with ease, running multiple cars for me. But he's, you know, trying to teach me some of his 27 years of racing in a very brief period of time.
Well, good luck today. And another guy that's joining us over on the side here. I know we got a little bit of time, so we might as well talk to Jason Bell as well. I know you weren't happy with how things went yesterday. What's the plan on bouncing back here today?
You know, just stay consistent today when I get in the car. We actually started better. I don't know what happened. We kind of fell back to 11th. So Andrew's got some work to do, and then I'll finish it.
When you plan your attack for this new season, how do you see how this season's going to contend? We have some new racetracks that we're going to. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, we got some tough stuff coming up. I mean, this track here is difficult, as you can see. I mean, mentally challenging. I made some mistakes yesterday. And then we've got, you know, obviously Ozarks coming up that nobody's been to, and, you know, everybody's going to test. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. And this field is crazy, so there's a lot of good drivers in this class right here.
Thank you, Jason.
Busy group, that GMG racing team. James Sofronis, as Kyle Washington alluded to.
His most expensive friend.
That's right. He is the owner, but Joe Foster does a lot of the work behind the scenes to keep that ship pointed the right direction. And it is a logistical marvel. And you think about the different manufacturers that they are involved with. They've got relationships with Porsche, with Aston. They've worked with Lamborghini in the past, a couple other brands too. Audi certainly comes to mind. It's a lot to juggle, and they've been doing it as well as anybody for the last 25 years.
They really have. I mean, James Sofronis has a remarkable before at 250 plus starts in World Challenge competition. So behind the wheel, he's a recognizable name, has really branded GMG through this championship, through his racing. But he's a big off the track business as well. But when it gets back to the customer service that he provides, it's his customers first and James second. It's not about how do I go racing. It's about what does Kyle Washington want? Does he want a driver like myself who has the experience and can mentor him and teach him and co-drive with him? Yes, he does. So Kyle says that with a smile on his face. He's his most expensive friend. Obviously, racing is expensive, and James is going to provide first-class services and a cost. But that's how you learn the trade, by being in multiple cars, doing enough testing to really learn this craft and fast-tracking it a little bit. But Kyle's a real character. I love how he goes about his business. Very successful businessman, an entrepreneur, multiple corporations that he's involved with, including C-SPAN, which is someone who services the marine industry up in the Pacific Northwest. So gentlemen drivers are able to take that focus, Ryan, and that discipline and apply it to racing, and that's how they can be successful.
Race Vision powered by AWS, top speeds overall. And we see Michael O'Brien. Haven't talked about him yet this weekend, but a driver with quite a bit of McLaren experience. Very little, though, in North America. He's coming over to drive this car for the Privé Motorsports Top Racing Group. He's got the fastest straight line speed recorded even faster than the BMW, which is known to be a missile in a straight line.
Yeah, knew his father, Michael Bryan, was a big-time racer back when I was over in Europe running in Formula 3, British Touring Car Competition, Sports 2000. So he was a keen racer, had a lot of success, and obviously it's in the genes. His son has done some great things early in his career,
including racing in the British GT Championship, finished 4th in 2020, driving for a team co-owned by Jenson Button. Not bad company to keep, and finished 3rd in the GT4 version of British GT back in 2018. Of course, driving a McLaren for the Tolman Motorsport team. Used to be part of the McLaren driver development program too. Just has great roots with that brand, and it's awesome to have one of those McLaren 570S GT4s on the grid this year in Pirelli GT4 America. Under 45 minutes to go. We are now 10 minutes or so away from the pit window opening, and we are moments away from going back to green. Stephen McAleer has had his advantage erased. Kenton Cook, the Pro-Am leader, as close as could be. McAleer punches the gas pedal, and there he goes, accelerates away. Now Cook has to go on the defensive. Here comes Mackay Stevens. He wants that spot back.
Yeah, good jump there by McAleer. Once again, punched it a little bit before that VP acceleration zone. Here comes Povaleto as well, looking to go to the inside there. Almost the cut and paste move that he didn't quite make happen on the initial start as well.
Povaleto in the red and black, almost matte black. Aston Martin running 4th in line. Aston well represented at the front of this field. That's been the case in GT4 racing over the past few years. It's been an exponential growth for the brand. Single file most of the way through the field, but there it stacks up between and behind Eric Curran in that Saleen S1 GT4.
Some of the GR Supras going side by side there. Thielens in the mix.
Yeah, I think so. Billy Johnson in the Mustang.
Jesbray and Thielens there going side by side in the two Toyotas. What a great platform in addition to our GT4 field that has been.
Take a look at the diffuser on the Mustang, Calvin. There's been some contact there. That will not help the performance any.
Johnson had a good run yesterday, just off the podium, finishing in 4th. Boys, he had a ton of success over the years in this form of competition. Muscles his way through there nicely, controlled that nicely. It's very tight there when you get to turn 8.
Clarify on the Saleen, it's not fully developing the GT4 car just yet. It will be, though, with the data taken from the race here this weekend. Jesbray getting shifted out wide. Thielens able to slip past. That's one of the Smooch Racing Supras attacking one of the sister cars.
Yeah, Thielens part of the TRV group, runs for the Lexus brand in a different North American championship with a ton of success. One of those young drivers who looked like slipped through in there, had some success at Indy Lights level, and then turned his attention to sports car racing, got the attention of Jimmy Vasser, who sees a lot of himself, I believe, in this young man. Hails from Wisconsin.
Looked like he was on the fast track to IndyCar and didn't quite work out that way. Mackay Stevens has slipped back on this lap. He was up in 3rd. He's dropped his spot to 4th. Povaleto has gotten around, and next in line to take a shot is Jason Hart.
Yeah, the 34 car doesn't look quite as sharp today, so maybe they made some adjustments overnight and hasn't quite followed the direction of the track here this morning. But this is what a championship is all about. You know, we talked about last year. They burst onto the scene at a 4th and a 3rd position, followed that up the next event weekend with 2 runner-up finishes, and then cleared the decks with 4 wins in a row. Yesterday finishing 2nd, but you've got to build that points over a championship season. And if you don't have the fastest car, it's all about executing to the maximum. Today at maybe a 3rd or 4th place, you've got to put that into perspective.
Maximizing those bad days, minimizing the damage. That is what it's about, especially in this era. Balance of performance.
The other thing is factoring in the next silver place car is down in 11th overall of Anderson. So Mackay Stevens may be saying, I'll let these other class cars that aren't running in my category go a little bit here and just try and settle in.
McAleer, Cook, Povaleto, the top 3. Silver Pro-Am, into the 2nd place silver car, 4th overall of Stevens. Continues to be hounded by Jason Hart. Dropping back, Guy Cosmo now feeling some pressure from Michael O'Brien. And here we are, back to the Mackay Stevens-Jason Hart fight coming up the hill in turn 1.
Yeah, Mackay Stevens is kind of in a bit of a difficult situation. The car doesn't seem to be working quite as well as he would like based on his pace here yesterday and certainly last year. So he's in a fight. He's got a lot of really fast race cars around him. The more he lets these guys go, the bigger buffer there is between he and McAleer, who continues to lead overall and leads his class. So he can't afford to drop back too much, otherwise he's going to give his teammate a lot of work to do in the second half of this race.
Fights all throughout this field with 40-plus GT4 cars. The brightly painted TRG racing machine. Derek DeBoer driving that one. He's sharing with Jason Alexandridis. Side by side, a couple of BMWs just in front. The green one's the Random Vandals racing car. Paul Sparta, Al Carter, sharing the driving duties for the second straight year. Third place in points a year ago.
Finished just off the podium yesterday. Looked like they had it in their hands, and then DeBoer got that great run at the finish and got the TRG machine onto the podium here in front of the home fans.
These are a couple savvy vets. Al Carter's been at this game a while, same for James Clay. James has the bit between his teeth. He's on the move.
Yeah, I love to watch him race. He's another one of these guys like James Safronas has really built his brand through the racing ranks and been super successful off the track at the same time.
The graphic on the left-hand side of the screen, some of the big movers up 6 spots. Zach Anderson running in 11th. Aaron Thielens up 11 spots to 19th overall. He's currently, though, still 13th in Pro-Am, so still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, had a tough qualifying run yesterday, so he had a lot of work to do, but just showcasing his speed and the performance of that Toyota GR Supra.
We talked about it yesterday, that varying lines in turn 1. Mackay Stevens, that wide arcing entry. It leaves you vulnerable, though, on the inside.
It does, and you need a lot of confidence in your race car to do that. I mean, it's one of those corners that is very intimidating. You're kind of looking left, but you got to feel the edge of the road. When you run that wide, so easy to drop a right-hand wheel off the road, and that's the highest speed part of this racetrack.
Now the plunge down the hill in turn 6. Mackay Stevens, who at one point in his life Googled how to be a race car driver. That's how he found the Skip Barber Racing School. He won some shootouts, he got some different opportunities as a result. He was working construction at the time, but his family encouraged him to pursue that childhood dream, and here he is behind the wheel of a Mercedes-AMG GT4 running in podium contention in the silver class.
Super smart, articulate young man. Really great brand ambassador for this team moving forward. Boy, can he get it done behind the wheel. Seems to be super savvy behind the wheel as well.
Colin Mullen, so impressive in a partial season a year ago, just racked up the wins as the season came to a close. A shame not to see that lineup continuing, but can't argue with the results so far. We heard from his co-driver earlier in the show, Gavin Sanders, and he put the car on pole on debut and ran up front yesterday.
Pretty cool story. Matt Plum running with Tory Motorsports. Tory name has had a lot of success in different disciplines to this one here in North America.
The Tory team you're talking about?
Yeah.
Absolutely. NASCAR Truck Series team, Xfinity Series. They won the truck championship with boy, who was that? I can't remember off the top of my head. And then Austin Hill ended up driving for them, and he's had a decent career following that, too. It's a team owned by Shigeaki Hattori, or Shiggy Hattori, as he was known for a lot of his IndyCar career. Ran in kart, ran in the IRL, a couple of Indy 500 starts, and has that connection to Toyota. And now branching out into sports car racing for the first time.
It's a great battle here. We talk about the depth of talent in this field. A battle for 12th between Billy Johnson and Aaron Thielens. It'd be no surprise to see this being a battle for the lead with these two names and the talent on board here.
Penalty, by the way, to the Zelus car, 888 for a restart violation. Car's running a ways down the order at the moment. But yeah, great contrast in sports car racing experience between these two. Billy Johnson's been at it for a while with Ford, with Multimatic. He's done a lot of development work on the car he's driving right now. Aaron Thielens had not started a GT4 race until yesterday. Plenty of GT3 experience, plenty of open wheel experience. Late on the brakes, he slides it up the inside of Johnson. Put the Supra ahead of the Mustang with 35 minutes remaining.
That was a sweet move. I was just about to make the statement. You think of the Mustang with the big silhouette like a muscle car. Well, this GT4 car has a ton of downforce and is really good in the brake zones, particularly with Billy Johnson behind the wheel. But Thielens just executed a superb move there. One's a little bit wider through there. Tight is where you're going to feel the grip and get the traction off. Johnson trying to take advantage of that.
By the way, the pit window opened just as these two passed it by. There is no rule that mandates that the leader must be the first one to get a chance to pit, so there are some deeper in the pack that, if they so choose, might have a slight advantage and duck to pit lane early.
Yeah, and we saw that yesterday. The early pitters kind of came out with a little bit of space and breathing room as the rest of the field piled into pit lane. But again, talking about the lineups, Pro-Am lineups, the pro starting, some of those teams will elect to run a little bit deep into this window before coming down pit lane.
Pass, by the way, Thielens on Johnson for 12th in Pro-Am. Gives you an idea of the depth of the field when drivers of that caliber are fighting for 12th and 13th. This is a little bit closer to the front. Jason Hart continues to hound the silver class car of Mackay Stevens. Hart right now 3rd in Pro-Am.
Yeah, and Hart's going to be a little bit frustrated by this because there's not a car in his class, but he's kind of creating a bit of a buffer, almost a wingman for Cook and Povaleto.
Well, Stevens, though, is thinking this track position is going to matter in the second half of this race. There's a reason that he's fighting for this spot, even if it isn't for a position in class.
Absolutely. He's going to try and see what his teammate Gavin Sanders can do up against Eric Filgueras for potentially the win here today. Most of these teams electing to stay out. We anticipated this. Pit window, despite the early yellow, did not have to be shifted like yesterday, so this is the normal strategy. So a couple of teams get caught out with that in terms of when they elected to pit yesterday.
McAleer, by the way, continues to lead, 2.7 seconds the advantage. Billy Johnson in that wounded Ford Mustang was dropped off of Aaron Thielens, and Eric Curran is giving this invitational class Saleen a pretty good run. Similar car to what ran in the Saleen Cup a couple of years back.
His lap times are right in the mix there. About a couple of seconds off the leaders, but certainly in the same pace and frame as the guys that he's running around.
The eponymous Steve Saleen will be taking driving duties in the second half of the race.
Eric's had such a wonderful career, long-time World Challenge SRO competitor, then moved to prototype racing, a couple of big titles along the way with the Action Express racing team, moved to the endurance role, and very successful off the racetrack as well. Sells exotic cars for a living, based in the LA areas, excuse me.
Side by side here, this is, I think, O'Brien.
Is going up against JCD, John Capestro Dubats.
Ryan currently 5th in Pro-Am. Capestro Dubats 6th, trying to work his way forward. Leaders continuing to stay out. Fastest lap of the race. CrowdStrike fastest lap. Stephen McAleer, 1:47 flat, but that was a few laps back. He's about 0.7 of a second off of that pace in recent laps as the tire fall off begins, and that's not a surprise. Anytime you come to Sonoma, that's part of the conversation.
I think almost 30 minutes in, it's really a testimony to how durable this new Pirelli tire is. A little bit harder compound, stiffer construction. You pay the price early in the going when the conditions are cool and you don't have the track temperature, but you know, to only fall off a second after 30 hard minutes of racing is pretty strong.
Brian in the McLaren, John Capestro Dubats in the BMW. Andy Lee for Flying Lizard Motorsports gave that car a great run yesterday. He is in the Aston. And then you get to the second placed car in the AM class, Terry Borchella right now. He's up in 11th overall, and as mentioned, 2nd in AM. Right behind him, Elliott Skier in the mix.
Terry really looking forward to this opportunity with Nick Shaney. Hasn't raced a full season since 2015, former champion in sports cars won some of the biggest races like the Rolex 24 along the way. And just really another one of these drivers later in their career, but getting these opportunities through their coaching services business and teaming up with drivers who need their experience, their mentorship on a race weekend.
John Capestro Dubets in the BMW goes the long way around Michael O'Brien and grabs the 5th spot in Pro-Am, and O'Brien's problems have not been resolved. Now he's got Andy Lee ready to take a shot. O'Brien goes on the defensive into the braking zone for the hairpin. Lee settles in single file through the chicane.
Yeah, Lee and his teammate Elias Sabo had a great run here yesterday. Finished on the podium on debut with the Flying Lizard Group and that new Aston Martin Vantage. Eric Filgueira's getting ready. Dominoes is going to start to fall now as people are starting to hit pit lane.
Borcheller up the inside of Lee now. That is not for class position, but it does affect the track position in the race. We saw Eric Filgueira getting his helmet on. He'll be taking over for McAleer. We saw O'Brien duck to the pit lane. Elliott Skier in the Premier car. He did as well. Billy Johnson also into the pits in that Mustang.
And how do you react to that? Going to come pretty soon anyway. You don't want to cut it too close. If you suddenly have a moment on that in lap or there's some kind of issue, you don't want to run afoul of being on pit lane. So looking at the clock, I think McAleer could probably do this lap plus one more, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him duck into pit lane this go around.
Cars must be in the pit lane, and you know, before you get down to the 25-minute mark in the race, 25 minutes to go. You don't have to have your service completed, but as long as you've triggered that pit entry line,
correct,
you're good to go.
So he's got enough time on the board to extend this run by one more lap beyond this. So big question mark is now he's going to negotiate this turn 9 chicane. Does he then head for pit lane or stretch it and roll the dice a little bit further?
And it is a roll of the dice, because if you spin, if there is a yellow, if something happens in front of you and you are not in the pit lane, you have a drive-through penalty coming your way. And so RS1 will not roll the dice. They call McAleer into the pits, and Kenton Cook will follow him.
This ball comes with him. Kenton very late on the brakes there. Looked like he erased a little bit of that gap there. Mackay Stevens in as well.
But 2 stayed out. Povaleto did and Hart did. And so that could shuffle this order somewhat.
Saw yesterday by staying out, you were suddenly getting amongst a lot of these cars that had just made their pit stop, and suddenly you couldn't run the speed. And particularly today, it's going to be the AM drivers climbing on board, so it's going to be even more of a factor.
Driver change underway. Filgueira getting in. Race winners yesterday. They won in a GT4 race at Daytona earlier this year too. So they're perfect on the season, looking to extend that streak. And now Brian Putt will replace Kenton Cook in the B Sport Racing Aston Martin.
You see the seat insert going in. You see Kenton's a little bit taller than Brian, of course, so this is all pretty much routine. You can rehearse, it can still go wrong. You can get belt twisted, you can sit on a lap belt, but there's plenty of time here. You see the team are allowed to do tire pressure adjustments, just bleed them down a little bit. If you started a bit aggressive on the tire pressure, it does give you that reprieve halfway through this race to get them back into their sweet spot.
Other drivers that stayed out on track in addition to Povaleto and Hart: James Safronis, the M-Class leader, Guy Cosmo, Terry Borcheller, Justin Piscatell, Aaron Thielens, among others that have yet to come in but will need to soon. Here's the race off of pit lane, and it's RS1 leading B Sport out as they did coming in.
Yeah, looks like they were both executed pretty strong pit stops there.
Now it's a question of how quickly can these second drivers get up to speed. Neither of these two have extensive experience. Brian Putt certainly the last couple of seasons in this Aston, but he was relatively late to racing in his lifetime. Eric Filgueira, a lot of racing in his young lifetime, but not much sports car racing. So an interesting contrast, but keep in mind, not for class position. Filgueira in the silver class. Well, the B Sport Aston we're looking at is in Pro-Am and should have the lead.
Kenton Cook there, giving the car over to Brian Putt there. Pit stop time was 91.8. That's below the minimum, but you get that 1 second joker, so that team executed a little bit more efficiently, gained half a second there on the pit stop of the number 18 car of McAleer over to Filgueira.
Traffic all mixed up here. Austin's taking a lunge to the inside of the Mustang.
Just to clarify, there's a minimum time that you have to be on pit lane, which is 92 seconds. And there's a 1 second joker. If you're below that by not more than 1 second, you can use it just once on the weekend. Here's the NOLA Sport team. How do they execute here? Can they gain something on this pit stop and by keeping Jason Hart out there 1 lap longer than the other leaders?
This team has a ton of experience in this race format, and they've been very good on the pit lane in the past. But it's a different driver pairing, so some of that you rehearse, you've got to build up that experience, right? And still early in the season, typically that's when we see the mistakes made. There we saw the leaders coming around. Povaleto having handed off to Schwest. Looks like they did lose a little bit of ground in the exchange.
They did. There they come out, third in line of these lead cars, so not too much of a shuffle there. Pretty much status quo amongst the top 5. Now we've got the AMs on board. Ross Schwest on board the 50 machine.
The pit window has closed, so everyone is either on the pit lane now doing their service or has completed it at this point. And it
looks like everyone's been on pit lane.
There you go, time spent in the pits. Who did it best? B-Sport Racing, you talked about it, using their joker. Perfect execution for that team.
Settle in here for timing and scoring to shuffle a bit. See if there's any big winners and losers. I think everyone's getting these pit stops so much more efficient than we saw in previous seasons, Ryan, even though it's the opening weekend.
Now, most of these teams up and down the pit lane now, they've got at least 1 year of experience doing this. That hasn't always been the case. There are still a few new teams. Accelerating Performance comes to mind. Rotec did not do Pirelli GT4 America last year. This is not for position, but Eric Vilgaris working his way through some lap traffic, and we'll let everyone come past the start-finish line and give you an idea of what the gaps are at this stage, but Vilgaris in this silver class appears to be in control.
Yeah, really nice young man, known he and his father for many, many years, just grinding it out, networking, coming to races when they're not even competing, just to meet people. Super pleasant father and son, and great to see young Eric still getting these opportunities. It's been a grind, but that's what it takes sometimes.
This is the second placed car overall. Brian Putt now also leading in Pro-Am, 6.2 seconds behind Vilgaris. The car behind him is for position in Pro-Am. Ross Schwest runs there, and then it's Sanders, the pole sitter from yesterday. Mackay Stevens started that Conquest car, and now Gavin Sanders runs in 4th, but second in silver. The problem, though, is he's 7 seconds behind Vilgaris, and he's got 2 out-of-class cars fighting for position right in front of him.
Yeah, and he should have enough pace, I feel, to get beyond these cars, but then I don't think he's got enough pace to try and chase down Vilgaris. We'll have to wait and see once he gets into some clean air.
Schwest must have made a lunge at Putt coming to the start-finish line, because at the stripe, the distance between the two was just 0.04 of a second. They've settled back into single file order, though, for now. Behind them is this gaggle of cars. The BMW is Tom Capizzi. He runs 5th.
Tsunoda there aboard the Absolute Racing machine. Got that penalty yesterday for a bit of an aggressive move down in the turn 9 chicane. This is Washington now on board, so they've got their driver IDs mixed up, and this is Kyle Washington now on board this GMG racing machine.
And that is the leading car in the AM class. James Safronis had a great stint running inside the top 10 overall, and now we see, can Kyle Washington maintain that advantage? The next car in the class is Nick Shanny, who's all the way down to 18th overall. So the Washington car, now it updates on timing and scoring, finds himself in 10th overall. So that's the gap. 20 minutes to go. Brian Putt has been able to extend the margin over Schwest, and Sanders has not been able to find a way through. And that's
big run here, though. Big run there. Schwest saw him coming and was certainly aware of that situation developing. Sanders has got to sort of like, this is early in his career running with this multi-class format, so he's got to really make the right judgment call here. Still got a very strong run going, second in the silver class. Big points following up on yesterday. He needs to be talked through this. I mean, I'm sure Eric Bachelot got in his ear before he got in the car and kind of told him the big picture of what he needed to do.
Sneaking into the picture as well, as here, well, we'll get to that in a moment, is we see Sanders trying to make it work around the outside of Schwest, unable to do it. Keep in mind, not for class position. This is just delaying the charge for Sanders, and it's also bringing the car of Scott Noble into the mix. That is the third-placed car in Pro-Am. Lap traffic ahead for everybody to deal with. That's Jason Alexandridis. No, that's not. I think that's the Todd Hetherington, Jim Rappaport car.
Sanders there, got alongside. He's just trying to keep it super clean, not make any mistakes, trying to avoid any avoidable contact here.
Dr. Jim Rappaport in that 17.
In there.
That's lap traffic that these guys will have to deal with. Yes, Sanders does make the pass on Schwest. That's not great news for Ross, because Scott Noble has been on a tear the last few laps, and now that is a battle for position brewing between the Aston and the Porsche.
Yeah, and I think maybe the memo to Sanders was here. Do what you can do, but don't take any chances. Do not damage this race car. We've got a big points day, big points weekend. Even though we're on the back foot for the win a little bit, just take it easy. And he really was showcasing that with his behavior behind the wheel there and how he was negotiating through that slightly slower traffic.
Into the final third of the second Pirelli GT4 America race of the 2022 season. Just one full course yellow so far in this one. It's been a nice clean run up to this point. Update on this car with, I think, Nick Shanny driving. Amanda has more.
Well, Ryan, you guys were talking about the impressive drive from Aaron Thielens that you were seeing in his, and Aaron, I think you 17 positions on the grid, 10 in class. What took over for you today?
Yeah, we just had a great Toyota GR Supra here with smooth racing. Had a problem in qualifying, so we had to start at the back. But just had a lot of fun out there. This is my first ever GT4 weekend. Yesterday got a top 10 P7 in class, and Todd's doing a great job out there. I think we're in the top 10 right now even. So we're just having a lot of fun here.
You were talking about your first ever weekend in GT4, as you mentioned, also for Todd Coleman. I think it's his first ever pit stop. How is he coming up to the format this weekend?
Yeah, it's first ever pit stops for Todd. He did a great job yesterday. He's never done a live driver change. Got it done in time and out on track here today with the driver change to me to him. We're just having a lot of fun, and Todd's doing a great job out there.
Thank you, Aaron.
She's got my Supras confused. That was, of course, the Todd Coleman, Aaron Thielens efforts that just dropped a spot to Moisey Uretsky, the veteran of MX5 Cup competition, who slipped past in the accelerating performance Supra, but then he has to go the short way through the chicane, which is not the fast way, so all that progress, well, we just lost it.
Yeah, and you got to be careful down in the brake zone for the next corner. You got that dirt and mud on the tires, of course, so just hard battling throughout this field. We talk about the talent and some of these drivers deep in this field, sometimes outside the top 10, with names that you used to winning races and championships.
Well, one of them just sprinted through that battle. That was Ryan Dexter, who qualified on the front row for race 1 yesterday. Shares that car with Dominic Starkweather. New chassis for a new manufacturer for the Dexter Racing team after many years with Ginettas and then the Aston last year. Now running, at least with this entry, in the Supra, and Ryan Dexter charging up through the field. He made up 3 spots on 1 lap the last time by.
Yeah, he's certainly up on the wheel. This battle continues right now. So this is Sanders has got on the tail of Brian Putt here. So this is for second on the road. But still, Putt continues to lead in Pro-Am. That's the car in the lead of that little battle we were looking at. Here's a replay down into that turn 9 chicane. That's Paul Sparta going straight on. Some consequences right behind him. It's like Jason Alexandridis involved.
Oh, and more problems here. Tom Capizzi in the car that was started by John Capestro Dubets. It looked like maybe Steve Saleen involved. Nope, that wasn't. That was Anderson Tenoto in a similarly colored Porsche.
Yeah, similar move to what he tried yesterday, which he didn't pull off as well without getting contact. That left front is completely broken. And he's probably not going to go anywhere. He's in the firing zone right there, so we may force us to another full course yellow.
That is not good news for Eric Filgueras, who now leads by 11.5 seconds. And while we stay green, crucial moments here for Sanders to maybe clear putt. If he can do that right now, then on a potential restart, he would be right up behind the class leader.
Yeah, he certainly would. So he's got a few corners to do it. They'll probably delay throwing this yellow, depending on where the leader is, who's a little bit down the road by about 11 seconds. So he's probably going into the carousel about now. And that car is stranded down there in turn 7, so he probably doesn't have much time to make it happen before we're going to see a yellow.
Again, not for class position, but for Brian Putt. You want to keep that buffer between yourself and the second place car of Schwest, which is not too far behind. It's the red and black Aston right there. So there is a reason he's fighting so hard, despite the fact it is not for class position.
Green right now. Wondering if that Absolute Racing machine could, that Porsche could reverse back up to like a safe haven, which is way behind him in the runoff area for turn 7. Seems to be sitting still.
The good news is he's deemed to be in a safe enough place where we have not needed to have the intervention of the safety car. These guys still going at it. Alexandrides in the brightly colored Porsche here. He and Derek DeBoer had a great run yesterday to get on the podium. Look at this mess, too. Thomas Surgeon, excuse me, with the McLaren, and he goes wide and off the grass. Oh, what a save.
Yeah, that was a close one. Fortunately, that grass has dried out a little bit. I think yesterday you'd have been on for a bigger ride with the rain that we had yesterday morning and heavy rains here on Thursday. It takes a while to drain off.
It's the Privé Motorsports Top Racing McLaren. He shares with Michael O'Brien. Seen him drop back a little bit. Back, though, to the front here. Second overall up for grabs. And Sanders knows he needs to make this move to have any chance at least thinking about running down Filgueras, who has sprinted away to a 12-second lead.
Yeah, and he's just trying to keep it so clean. He doesn't want to take big risks, and now he slides it down to the inside, gives Putt a little bit of room. Putt gives him the room, and he should be through. But watch this. Weston's going to get a run on Putt by allowing that to happen.
No good deed goes unpunished in motorsports. He gave him plenty of room, did Brian Putt, but now finds himself on the back foot. So here we go. First, second, third Pro-Am right here, nose to tail. Schwest runs second behind Putt with Scott Noble putting in a great run. He's going to take a bid for second, looking around the outside of Schwest.
Yeah, he's got the bit between his teeth, right? So he can sense it. Had a great run here yesterday. He and Jason Hart working together for the first time in terms of a driver pairing. Certainly been part of the same driving squad for a while. NOLA Sport.
Two Astons and a Porsche up at the front of this field in Pro-Am. They also are 4th, 5th, and 6th overall. Third place in silver is 4 seconds or so back, maybe a little more than that actually. That's Austin Smith. Zach Anderson started that car. And they continue to have a nice start to their season. Austin Smith in his first weekend of this new program.
Podium run yesterday, so they're going to be a potent combination. Anderson winning that championship a couple of years ago. Someone's been turned around here. Boy, the joy on his face yesterday when he grabbed that trophy for that podium run. He and Andy Lear, someone takes a quick spin. 7 machine of Owen behind the wheel right now.
Yep, Samo and Sean Gibbons, partners for their second straight year in that car. And that's a scary moment to have that Aston rejoin right in front of traffic.
Yeah, I'm not sure he created the moment, though. I think Sam was just a little bit aggressive there, getting back to power there. Tires are late in the day in terms of what they're going to give you.
Something about Rafa Matos. This is the BMW that he's been assigned to.
what a workload they had right here at this very corner. That left front corner went for a ride, and they were working till 4:30 in the morning. Eric Maas from the team acknowledged that his team just did a tremendous job. It would have been easy to give up on that one. Severe damage to that race car, but they wanted to be back out there today.
Further down the order, but a Herculean effort just to be on the grid in a car that he and Tim Horrell share. Tim driving with hand controls, and Rafa Matos with much more traditional setup. Can't wait to see what they can do over the course of a full season.
Yeah, I think they're going to really shine. Matos is top shelf in terms of his talent later in his career now, but as you mentioned earlier, Indy Rookie of the Year, won all the junior formula on the Mazda step up to Indy in terms of Indy Lights, Atlantic, Formula Mazda. Just the young Brazilian at that time was a man on the move.
And his real foray on the North American scene was through the Skip Barber Racing School, the Barber Formula Dodge National Championship, which he won in 2003. Here's the fight, first, second, and third. It has not slackened one bit. It continues to be Brian Putt holding Ross Schwest at bay, with Scott Noble looking for an opportunity to get involved. Here's a dive up the inside in the hairpin. It's Lucas looking to gain a spot on the postings, and he does so. It's the Hattori car up another position. Now the recovering Tom Capizzi trying to make up some more ground.
There are battles everywhere, and trying to put it all together, Ryan, with the different classes and mixed up lineups. Fascinating.
It is. It's what we were hoping for when the entry list was announced. There's the downside sometimes to a massive grid, and you can have some accidents. We did yesterday, but by and large, this has been pretty clean here today. And the competition in GT4, as ever, incredibly fierce.
Yeah, looking at Carl Washington there aboard the GMG 032 entry, holding down second in AM. So Sofronis had that really strong run at the beginning of the race, and Carl's done a great job in holding up his end of the program. Looking like a strong podium run here today with 7 minutes left on the board.
Yeah, this is the new leader in AM. How about it? Dexter Racing, Ben Anderson, Matt Rivard, teaming up in one of these cool new Ginetta G56 GT4s. A little bit more punch than the older G55. That's something the Ginetta folks really wanted to work on. The car is always handled exceptionally well. This is a good track for that platform, certainly in the G55 guys, and they hope that a little bit more power will solve some of the problems of raceability. The car has never struggled to turn a fast lap, but to be able to race with some of the other GT4 cars being, as it was, somewhat underpowered, made it very difficult.
Yeah, it could turn the lap time, but then when you get in race conditions, you get leapfrogged by a car on the straightaway. It's hard to then get back by that guy before you've been leapfrogged by another one. So, as you call it, the raceability wasn't there, and I think with this new platform and new engine configuration, hopefully they're going to be in more of a sweet spot for the competition here in GT4 competition.
53 minutes complete, less than 7 to go. These drivers fighting for the podium spots in Pro-Am, and they have to do so. These crucial moments when the tires are probably as used up as you can imagine. Nearly a full hour on these Pirelli P0s.
Yeah, and Brian Putt's done a really nice job. He's not adverse to finding victory lane, right? He won that TCR Cup back in 19, I think it was.
Yep.
Had a bundle of victories that year. And he and Kenton Cook had that single victory last year. But this is going to be a really strong combination for the championship this year. Good team. Kenton's wife Danny runs the team, and great engineering force with Eric Peterson there. Just a really good team that are returning, and they've got their notebook to work from, running with the same car again. So this is the races, these early season races, where they can really showcase their ability and what they have to put forward for the season.
Exactly so, and we talked about it yesterday, stemming from a conversation I had with Kenton and Brian down in the paddock, and they said, yeah, we look at these early races as our chance to stamp our authority on this championship, because the rest of these pairings, they're going to iron out some kinks. They're going to get stronger as the year progresses. We have the experience of working together for 2 seasons now, so we need to be very good out of the gate and build a lead that is insurmountable.
They're certainly on in line to do that so far. Big win yesterday, came late in the going with Ian James issues, but nonetheless leading right now. But Schwest and Noble are keeping him honest.
And it would be a good result, even if it is just second for Ross Schwest and Aaron Povaleto. This car has been quick, both here in GT4 America, but also GT America. Just not much luck. They've had some bad results, and they were supposed to have 2 different cars running this weekend. They haven't been able to do so due to some issues electronically with the other chassis that they're trying to work through. They've been dealing with shortages like so many have in these supply chains. If you look at their trailer in the paddock, one half of it looks great, beautiful logos on it. Their vinyl guy only had enough vinyl to wrap one side of the truck. And Aaron, who not only drives the car, but does a lot of the management, he was just beside himself. He cannot believe the things they had to deal with for something as simple as wrapping a truck, and it extends to the cars as well. And despite all of this, they show up at the racetrack. Small team, now based out of Indianapolis. Not a ton of races under their belt, but they put some good people together and always seem to have the pace.
Did Aaron have to take an A out of his name?
Yeah, maybe. That might help. Thomas Surgeon in the McLaren at the front of this battle pack.
He's going to learn a lot from Michael O'Brien, having him as a teammate. He's got a ton of experience with this McLaren platform, so that's what you're looking for. You want that sounding board. Battle's continuing here. It's not a battle for... yes, it is. Dexter gets around Adelson. That's not a battle for position. It's a Pro-Am versus a Silver Class car.
3.5 minutes to go. Jason Bell comes through the shot. There goes Ryan Dexter. Dexter now up to 5th in silver, 10th overall. More scraps everywhere you look. Find a car that's not engaged in some battle somewhere.
This is for 9th. This is James Walker Jr. Ran with Bill Auckland last year. Got a new teammate this year in Devin Jones. Great to see Devin back after his monster accident a couple of years ago. Sabo on the back of that podium run here yesterday. Had some problems in the GTA race earlier today. Not sure if they're sharing the same car or not, are they?
I think they have 2 in the garage. I could be wrong, but I think I did see that. The Flying Lizard team based here in Sonoma. Great result for them one day ago. Chris Cognazzi, he runs 4th in Pro-Am, 7th overall.
And way right behind him, 4th. And now the silver category, with his teammate Jesbray being regraded for this season, coming off the AM Championship win last year for Smooge.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, despite the fact they're in the silver category, Kevin is a bronze. And so he actually was out running in the bronze test session, and everyone's looking at him like, well, you're a silver. Well, we're in the silver class. Why are you out here? He said, well, I'm a bronze. I'm going to take advantage of it. But they are embracing the challenge, making the step up. They know it's going to be more difficult than it was a year ago. They had a disastrous day yesterday, so this is a nice bounce back. But barring something miraculous, this will be the first weekend in Pirelli GT4 America competition that John Jesbray did not win at least one race. I asked them, do you guys know it's not supposed to be this easy? And Kevin says, I do. He doesn't.
Yeah, you have to recalibrate a little bit like Michael Dinan had to when he made the move from winning 17 races in GT4 one year and then making the move to GT3. Kevin Sanders done a really nice job. Just kept it clean, recognized they probably didn't have the pace, certainly had a big gap to try and shrink to our leader, Eric Filgueras, but he tiptoed through the traffic very carefully, kept his nose clean. That's exactly what the team would want. Good point scoring. Admittedly, the team that you're chasing is the team that won yesterday, so yeah, that delta increases in the points, but nonetheless, a solid weekend for them.
Well, think about the learning curve. He's done some front-wheel drive touring car races, some karting, and that's about it. So to learn on the job and to do as well as he has, it's a good start to the year for the Conquest Racing Group. Great to have them for the full season and a couple of cars here this year. Should be white flag out for this man, Eric Filgaris, looking to sweep the weekend, both overall and in the silver class. Meanwhile, the fight in Pro-Am rages on. There is the white flag.
There's Putt. That's the leader in Pro-Am. Schwester Noble give chase up the hill one final time.
They're going to have traffic with that invitational class Saleen just up the road. That could have a part to play before it's all said and done.
Saleen has had decent pace this weekend. A couple of seconds off the leaders when Curran was behind the wheel. Turn 4, looking nice and smooth there. No lockups, no anything. Just really, he's been hitting his marks. Recognizes the pressure is back there if he made a big mistake, but if he keeps it clean here on this final lap and doesn't get too delayed with traffic in front of him, he should be okay.
Ben Anderson taking the white flag, the M class leader here in the Ginetta from Dexter Racing. He shares it with Matt Rivard. Great second stint here for Ben to push forward and take the lead away from Kyle Washington. And looks like Washington could come under pressure for second here from Charlie Postins here before it's all said and done. We'll keep tabs on that, but for now, the man of the hour, the team of the weekend in Pirelli GT4 America, just a few corners away from sweeping overall RS1, Eric Filgaris and Stephen McAleer. Through the hairpin one final time, the brilliant green machine makes the left-handed bend of turn number 12. The checkered flag awaits, and RS1, Filgaris and McAleer win race number 2 to complete the weekend sweep.
Excellent job, just perfect execution. There's Eric's dad there celebrating with the team.
Now we go to the Pro-Am field, and how about it? Just one win in 2 seasons prior to this weekend. Back-to-back wins to start the 2022 campaign for B-Sport Racing, Kenton Cook and Brian Putt.
Yeah, just great job there. Eric Peterson on the wall. Kenton celebrates. A little bit easier than yesterday. He was really struggling to keep Ian James at bay yesterday, but the win did come their way eventually.
And now to the Dexter Racing crew, looking to secure the first win on North American soil and pro racing, at least for the Ginetta G56 GT4. He and Matt Rivard put together a nice clean run today after some damage took them out of the mix one day ago. Dexter Racing, the little team from Nebraska, finds victory lane in Sonoma. Oh, and big issues here on the final lap. That is Jason Alexandridis in the TRG Porsche. That car is heavily damaged. Looked like Sambo might have been involved. Here's a replay.
Yeah, we see it late. Maybe moved down to the inside in the turn 9 chicane.
Well, unfortunate for them. But on the other side of the fortune spectrum, you find this team, RS1. That's not to discount the work that they put in. Certainly didn't come down to luck. The performance was there. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. That illustrates just how good this car was. Stephen McAleer absolutely on it on that opening stint.
He was. He had the intention this morning at breakfast, what he was going to do, and put it into play. And he's got a great young teammate here. You can see him doing the right thing. You see the Formula One cars do this at the end of the race. Try and roll around and snowball those tires a little bit. There's still post-race tech to go through. There's minimum ride heights that have to be met. And if you can snowball those tires a little bit, it will raise the car up, add some weight to the car. All part of the game.
We saw John Capestra do bets, and I guess Tom Capizzi, who was driving at the time, I think we saw that car stopped on the side of the road. I wonder, maybe did he run out of fuel on the cool down lap, or maybe that was a different Auto Technic car. In any event, like some drama for several down the running order on that final lap. 2 straight wins to start the year for this little team. How cool is that? That win they had a year ago was an overall win, not just a class win. That was such a big deal for them to break through and prove, yes, we can do it. Well, I'd say the dam has burst. 2 wins to start the 2022 season for Brian Putt and Kenton Cook in Pro-Am. these are the provisional results. Good battles across the board, and indeed, Washington did lose that second spot at Am. We saw Postins was coming, and he made the move on the final lap.
Wow. Good weekend for Bimmerworld. And that's a car that wasn't even supposed to be here as a late off-season change in terms of their category for this year. Intended to run in GT3. James Clay did. Had to give his car up to Chandler Hull, Bill Oberlin, after a pre-season crash, and made the late move back to GT4. Great run for them, a win and a runner-up finish here on the opening weekend.
They'll take a brief rest and then turn their attention to Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Stepping up to the GT3 ranks with the brand new BMW M4 GT3. Rest of the finishing results. It'll take a couple of results screens because the field is so big. A few of these cars not quite as fortunate, finishing further down the order.
Spending a fortune at Staples just printing re-entry for this.
That's right. Exactly so. And Jack Baldwin would have it no other way. Longtime racer, car owner, now the class manager, series manager for Pirelli GT4 America. Also oversees the GT4 cars racing in GT America. He's had a big smile on his face all weekend, and why not? His class is the best subscribed of any on the grid here this weekend. Looks like Amanda is standing by with some happy race winners.
Well, Eric, we caught video of your dad celebrating on pit lane, and you guys back up the win yesterday with a 13-second lead coming into. Why are you the silver car to beat in this class this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the hard work that these RS1 guys put in. I got to send a big shout out to Community Beer Works. This is their 10th anniversary, and they support myself, Steven, this RS1 team, all the way to their maximum extent, and these guys work so hard. Steven is a fantastic teammate of mine. He's teaching me so much. He gave me a really great car in a great position. He worked his butt off that first stint to give me the opportunity to just drive it home, and what I needed to do was just be conservative. You never know if there was going to be a yellow flag, so that was the game for us. Just bring it home.
Where could you really take advantage at this track? You say be conservative, but it still was a 13-second lead. Where did you let the Porsche open up?
Yeah, I mean, this track has high degradation, so I think the Porsche is very nimble. It's a little bit lighter. So as opposed to the heavier cars that are going to burn the tires off, I think that's where we're capitalizing. And we knew that, we planned that, and part of that was just, again, being conservative early on, so we had some tire at the end.
Congratulations.
Calvin, I saw you nodding along with his answer.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a game plan going in. You have to be flexible because you never know what can happen. You're in a different track position to what you anticipated. But they knew this morning, grabbing a coffee, what they were going to try and do for the day. Mackler got the jump. He's such a pro. I mean, it's great to see this young man, Eric, get these opportunities. But his teammate, Stephen Mackler, he's such a busy driver right now. Everyone wants him as part of their squad.
Let's hear from our Pro-Am winners now in Victory Lane.
Well, Brian, you bring this one to the checkered flag for the second race win of the weekend for this team. And the goal here this weekend was to put a stamp on this championship hunt. What was the leading success factor for this?
You know, honestly, we just have a solid team that works hard. We're not the biggest team. You know, we're probably not the best funded team, but everybody on the team has a passion. We really care about each other, and we work hard for each other. And, you know, Kenton went out and did a great stint and brought me a car that still had life in it. And it took a lap or two, and I kind of settled in. And then Ross was coming, and I just thought, okay, I'm just going to try to keep a gap and maintain and work on good exits and not get flustered. And, you know, it came together. So a lot of hard work for a lot of hours to put us in the position to even start the car and to bring it home and win for the team is really good stuff.
Kenton, during your stint, we were talking about some of the depth of racing names that you guys are out on track with. For you, how is the level of competition?
I mean, it's obviously quite high. There's a lot of good people here. But man, I still can't get over how good this guy did. Man, I was just out there cruising along, trying not to burn up the tires. I was trying to keep with Steven, but he was in another zip code. So yeah, everyone did a phenomenal job. This guy literally had the best drive of his entire life that I've witnessed. So it's amazing to be with this guy as a co-driver, and now we got 2 wins. So I think we're going to be pretty. We're at least starting the year strong.
Clearly leaving as points leader. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice points lead for them in the Pro-Am class. That's what they're looking for. They've they've been able to rack up those podiums, but this is something a little different from them, executing at a slightly higher level, Calvin, racking up wins now, not just top 3.
Well, they got all the ingredients, and as we've said a few times today, they just got there's cut and paste from last year. Same team, same car, same engineer, notebook to work from. You'd expect them to be stronger this year, even though there's a renewed competition. They're going to try and capitalize in these early rounds and say, come and catch us.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a tough test for the rest of the field, but that Pro-Am field, we talked about it, it is stacked, and, you know, we'll go from a track like this here at Sonoma, might favor a certain platform over another. We'll head to Ozarks, and who knows what we'll expect when we arrive there. That's the big mystery. Back down to Amanda.
Well, the Ginetta picked up the win here in the AM category, and Matt, when you assess the car, why was it so successful here in Sonoma?
It really works well on the track. I think it lends itself to this style of car, and we're able to preserve the tires and get a strong finish. So even though we started, I believe, back of the class, with patience and just consistent driving, moving through the field.
Back of the class, and then Ben, you were able to take that last overtake on Kyle Washington. How did you plot that opportunity?
It feels good. You got to have a good car to be handed off to you to do something like that. This guy is the man. I had a beautiful machine. I want to thank Dexter Racing. I want to thank Ginetta for giving us an incredible G56 GT4. This car is phenomenal, late pace, and that's what we do. We had to stay patient, and it paid off for us today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Big win for that team, for Dexter Racing, for Ginetta. Awesome to see them have a presence on the grid. It's cool that, you know, in GT4 you can still have some of those boutique constructors find a home to go racing against the big manufacturers and their massive support systems. Highlights from race 2 of the weekend. Look at this field pouring through turn 1 for the first time. The fight was fierce, front to back.
And that roller coaster ride through those first few corners is an exciting one, particularly on the opening laps.
This was a move that went wrong. Not really anyone's fault. Looked like there was something wrong with the suspension there in the braking zone. Cole Corallo and Thomas Merrill coming together. Back here from the restart, and Stephen McAleer sprinted away. It built a big lead. Saw it disappear with the safety car, but built it right back up. Here's a nice fight. Aaron Thielens on Billy Johnson for position.
Yeah, 2 big names, and this was for just being a top 10 result here today, not for the lead.
This was optimistic at best. Anderson Tenoto into the side of Tom Capizzi, and that was the end of the day for Tenoto. Certainly took Capizzi out of contention. 4 highlights here and a wild ride for Thomas Surgeon.
Yeah, he escapes one there. The grass was trying. He managed to keep it together.
Coming to the line, RS1 sweeps the weekend at Sonoma. Same story for B Sport Racing. Victory in race 2 for Dexter Racing.